Welcome back to the English Habit. I'm Zia. Are you ready for today's episode, Carter? Because it's one of my favorite topics.
Believe me, I know. Hello everyone, Carter here. Today we're talking about shopping and souvenirs, which is such a practical topic because whether you're traveling or just going to the store in your daily life, you need to know how to navigate shopping situations in English.
Absolutely. And shopping can be really different depending on where you are in the world. The customs, the language, the expectations about bargaining, it all varies so much.
Right. So we're going to cover everything from asking about prices, to bargaining in markets, to buying the perfect gift for someone back home. Let's start with the basics. When you walk into a store, what usually happens?
Well, in most stores, especially in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia, a sales associate will usually greet you pretty quickly. They might say, "Hi, how are you today?" Or, "Welcome. Let me know if you need any help."
And here's something that confused me when I first started shopping in English-speaking countries. Sometimes they're just being friendly, and sometimes they actually want to help you. It can be hard to tell.
That's so true. If you're just browsing and don't need help, you can say, "I'm just looking, thank you," or "just browsing, thanks." That's a polite way to let them know you don't need assistance right now.
But if you do need help, you might say, "Actually, yes. I'm looking for a birthday gift for my sister." Or, "Do you have this in a different size?"
Exactly. Now let's talk about asking prices, because this is fundamental. In stores with price tags, it's easy. You just look at the tag. But what about markets, small shops, or situations where prices aren't clearly displayed?
The most straightforward way to ask is, "How much is this?" Or, "How much does this cost?" You can also say, "What's the price of this?" Or simply, "How much?"
And if you're pointing at something, you might say, "How much is that one?" Or "How much are those?" if you're asking about multiple items.
Right. Now here's an important cultural note. In many Western countries like the United States, Canada, most of Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, the prices are usually fixed. That means bargaining or haggling isn't really expected or appropriate in regular stores.
Exactly. If you try to bargain at a department store or a chain shop, the salesperson will probably just look confused and say, "The price is what's on the tag." They don't have the authority to change it.
But, and this is a big but, there are definitely situations where bargaining is acceptable and even expected, even in Western countries.
Like where?
Well, at flea markets, garage sales, estate sales, some antique shops, and definitely at street markets in many countries around the world. If you're traveling in places like Morocco, India, Thailand, Egypt, Turkey, or many parts of Latin America, bargaining is absolutely part of the shopping culture.
So let's talk about how to bargain politely and effectively in English. This is a skill that takes practice.
It really does. Okay, so let's say you're at a market and you see something you like. First, you ask the price. The vendor might say, "This one is $30. Now, if you think that's too expensive, you don't want to just walk away immediately or insult them. You want to engage.
Right. You might say, "That's a bit more than I wanted to spend," or "That's a little steep for me." The word steep here means expensive.
Or you could be more direct and make a counteroffer. You might say, "Would you take 20? Or how about $20? Or could you do 20?
Exactly. And then the vendor will probably counter your offer. They might say, "I can do 25," or "The best I can do is 27." This is the back and forth negotiation.
And here's where it gets interesting. You have a few options. You can accept their counteroffer by saying, Okay, 25 works for me, or deal, or you can continue negotiating. You might say, could we meet in the middle at 22?
I love the phrase meet in the middle because it suggests compromise, which is really what bargaining is all about.
Absolutely. Now, here are some other useful bargaining phrases. If you're buying multiple items, you can ask, if I buy two, can you give me a discount? Or, what if I buy three? Can you give me a better price?
Oh, that's smart. Bulk buying often gets you a better deal. You might also say, is this your best price? Or is there any wiggle room on the price? Though wiggle room is pretty informal.
Right. And if you're in a market where bargaining is expected, vendors often start with a price that's higher than what they're actually willing to accept. They expect you to negotiate.
Exactly. But here's an important tip. Always be polite and respectful. Bargaining should be friendly, almost like a game. Don't be aggressive or insulting. And if you agree on a price, you should follow through and buy it. Don't keep bargaining after you've made a deal.
That's such a good point. It's about respect and building rapport, not just getting the cheapest price possible.
And you know what? Sometimes the difference you're bargaining over is just $1 or two. If you're a tourist from a wealthy country shopping in a developing country, remember that those few dollars might mean more to the vendor than they do to you.
Absolutely. Be fair, be kind, and enjoy the interaction. Now, let's talk about buying gifts, which is one of my favorite parts of shopping.
Oh, yes. Whether you're buying a souvenir for someone back home or a birthday present for a friend, there are some useful phrases to know.
So let's say you walk into a shop and you want help finding a gift. You might say to the sales associate, I'm looking for a gift for my mom, or I need to buy something for my friend's birthday.
And they'll probably ask some questions to help you narrow it down. They might say, what's she interested in? Or what's your budget? Or how old is he?
Budget is such an important word. It means the amount of money you're willing or able to spend. You might say, my budget is around $50, or I'm looking to spend about 30 pounds.
Exactly. And if the sales associate shows you something that's too expensive, you can say, that's out of my budget. Or, do you have anything less expensive? Or, do you have something similar but cheaper?
You can also ask, what's popular, or what do most people buy as gifts, to get some ideas.
Great question. And if you're buying souvenirs, you might want things that are unique to that place. You could ask, do you have anything that's locally made? Or what's special about this region?
Oh, I love buying local crafts and products. It's so much more meaningful than buying something mass-produced that you could get anywhere.
Definitely. So let's talk about some common types of souvenirs and gifts. There are typical things like postcards, magnets, keychains, t-shirts, mugs, and shot glasses.
Right, those are the classic tourist items. But if you want something more special, you might look for local art, handmade jewelry, traditional clothing, local food products like honey or spices, or books about the place you're visiting.
And when you're in the store looking at items, you might need to ask questions. Common questions include, does this come in other colors? Or do you have this in a smaller size? Or is this dishwasher safe? If you're buying something like a mug or a plate.
Oh, here's one I use all the time. Is this fragile? Especially if I'm traveling and need to pack it in my suitcase. You want to know if something will break easily.
Great point. And you might ask, do you ship internationally? If you're buying something large or heavy that you don't want to carry home.
Or can you wrap this as a gift, if you want it to look nice? Some stores offer gift wrapping, though there might be a small charge for it.
Now let's talk about payment. When you're ready to buy, the cashier might ask, will that be all? Or
Did you find everything okay?
And then they'll ask, how will you be paying? Or cash or card? In most places nowadays, credit and debit cards are widely accepted, but it's always good to have some cash, especially at markets or small shops.
Right. You might say, I'll pay with card, or I'll use cash, or do you take credit cards if you're not sure?
And here's something to be aware of. In some countries, they might ask debit or credit, even if you're using a credit card. You just tell them which one it is.
Also, in the US, you might be asked, would you like cash back if you're using a debit card? This means they can give you cash from your bank account along with your purchase. You might say, no thank you, or yes, $20, please.
And speaking of the US, remember that the prices on tags usually don't include sales tax. So if something is marked as $20, it might actually cost $21 or $22 at the register because tax is added at checkout.
Oh, that gets me every time. In most other countries, the price you see includes all taxes, so what's on the tag is what you pay. But in the US, you have to add the tax mentally.
Exactly. Now, after you pay, the cashier will usually give you a receipt and ask, would you like the receipt? Or would you like a bag? In many places now, they charge for plastic bags to reduce waste, so you might want to bring your own reusable bag.
Good point. You might say, no bag needed, thanks, or I have my own bag.
Now I want to talk about returns and exchanges because sometimes you buy something and it doesn't work out. Maybe it doesn't fit, or you change your mind, or it's defective.
Right, and return policies vary a lot from store to store and country to country. In the US, many stores have pretty generous return policies. You can often return something within 30 days if you have the receipt.
But you need to ask about the return policy before you buy, especially if you're unsure. You might ask, what's your return policy? Or can I return this if it doesn't fit?
The cashier might say, you can return it within 30 days with the receipt, or all sales are final, which means you can't return it at all.
If you do need to return something, you'd go back to the store with the item and the receipt and say, I'd like to return this, or I'd like to exchange this for a different size.
They might ask, what's the reason for the return? You can say, it doesn't fit, or I changed my mind, or it's defective, or I found a tear in it.
Now let's talk about some specific shopping scenarios. Carter, have you ever been to a street market in another country?
Oh, yes. I went to the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, and it was incredible. Thousands of shops, endless winding corridors, so much to see, and bargaining was definitely expected there.
That sounds amazing. What was your bargaining strategy?
Well, I learned pretty quickly that you should never accept the first price. I was looking at this beautiful Turkish lamp, and the vendor said, $150 for you, my friend. I said, that's too much for me, and started to walk away. Immediately, he said, wait, what price do you want to pay?
Huh! The classic walk-away technique. That's actually a really effective bargaining tool. If you start to leave, vendors will often call you back with a better price.
Exactly. So I said, I was thinking more like $60. And he laughed and said, 60? Impossible. This is handmade, very high quality. I can do 120. We went back and forth for a while, and eventually we settled on $85.
And were you happy with that price?
I was. I felt like I got a fair deal, and I could tell he was happy too. That's the sweet spot in bargaining, when both people feel good about it.
Definitely. And bargaining isn't just about the price. It's about the interaction, the human connection. Some of my best travel memories are from conversations with vendors at markets.
Same. I remember buying spices at a souk in Morocco, and the vendor spent like 20 minutes telling me about each spice, how to use it, what dishes to make. He gave me recipe ideas and even threw in some extra saffron for free. I ended up spending more than I planned because I bought so much, but it was such a great experience.
That's the beauty of shopping at local markets. You're not just buying products, you're having experiences and meeting people.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some shopping mistakes to avoid. One big one is not checking the currency. If you're traveling, make sure you understand the exchange rate so you know what you're actually paying.
Oh yes, I once thought I was getting an amazing deal on something, but I had confused the currency and ended up paying way more than I intended. Always do the math.
Another mistake is not inspecting items before you buy them, especially at markets. Check for damage, make sure zippers work, look for stains or tears. Once you walk away, it's hard to go back and complain.
Right. And if you're buying something electronic, check that it works and that it's compatible with your country's voltage and plug type. I bought a hairdryer once and couldn't use it when I got home because it was the wrong voltage.
Oh no, that's frustrating. Here's another tip. Be cautious about buying counterfeit goods. In some markets, you'll see fake designer bags, watches, or electronics. Not only is it illegal in many places, but the quality is usually terrible and they break quickly.
Good point. And if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. A Rolex watch for $20 is definitely not real.
Definitely not. Now, let's talk about some useful vocabulary for describing items when you're shopping. If you're looking for clothes, you might need to talk about sizes. In the US, sizes are usually small, medium, large, extra large, or numerical sizes but vary by type of clothing.
Right. And sizes are different in different countries. A size 8 in the US is different from a size 8 in the UK or Europe. So if you're buying clothes, you might need to try things on.
You'd ask, where are the fitting rooms? Or, can I try this on? The sales associate will usually give you a number tag that shows how many items you're taking into the fitting room.
And when you try something on, you're checking the fit. You might say, this is too tight, or this is too loose, or it's a bit long, or the sleeves are too short.
If it doesn't fit, you can ask, do you have this in a larger size? Or do you have this in a smaller size?
Now, when you're describing what you're looking for, you might talk about style, color, material, or pattern. For example, I'm looking for a blue cotton shirt, or do you have this in a different color?
Common materials include cotton, silk, wool, polyester, leather, and linen. And patterns might be solid, striped, polka-dotted, plaid, or floral.
Oh, and if you're buying shoes, you need to know your shoe size, which is also different in different countries. And you might ask, do you have these in a size 9? Or, can I try these in a different width?
Right, because shoes come in different widths, too. Some people need wide or narrow shoes for comfort.
Now, let's talk about shopping for souvenirs specifically. I think there's an art to picking good souvenirs.
I agree. A good souvenir should be meaningful, not too expensive, and ideally something you can't get anywhere else.
Exactly. I try to avoid the generic tourist stuff and look for things that are authentic to the place. Like, if I'm in Japan, I might buy some beautiful chopsticks or a traditional hand fan, not a plastic geisha doll.
Same. And I like buying consumable souvenirs like local tea, coffee, chocolate, or spices, because then you don't accumulate a bunch of stuff you don't know what to do with.
That's smart. Although I do love collecting small, meaningful items from each place I visit. I have a little shelf with treasures from different countries.
Aw, that's sweet. So when you're buying souvenirs, you might be thinking about practicality. You might ask, is this easy to pack? Or will this survive in my suitcase?
Right. Because the last thing you want is to get home and find that your beautiful ceramic vase shattered in transit.
Exactly. You can ask the seller, how should I pack this? And they often have good suggestions or even bubble wrap to help protect it.
Now, here's a fun topic: how to deal with pushy salespeople. In some places, vendors can be very aggressive about trying to get you to buy.
Oh, yes. I remember walking through a market in Egypt, and vendors were constantly calling out, trying to get me to come into their shops. Special price for you. Come, just look. Where are you from?
That can be overwhelming. The key is to be polite, but firm. You can smile and say, "No thank you," and keep walking. You don't owe anyone an explanation.
Right. And don't feel guilty. They're just doing their job and they're used to people saying no. If you stop to look at everything, you'll never make it through the market.
Exactly. But if you are interested in something, it's okay to engage. You might say, "I'm just looking right now," or "I might come back later," if you want to browse without committing.
And here's a phrase I use: I need to think about it, or let me look around first and I'll come back if I'm interested. That gives you an out without being rude.
Perfect. Now, what about tipping? Do you tip in shopping situations?
Generally, no. You don't tip in regular stores or markets. But if someone goes really above and beyond to help you, like spending an hour helping you find the perfect gift or carrying your heavy purchases to your car, a small tip would be appreciated, but not expected.
Right. It's different from restaurants where tipping is standard. In shopping, it's more of a bonus for exceptional service.
Now I want to share a funny shopping story. I was in Thailand and I was trying to buy a sarong at a beach market. The vendor and I were bargaining and I thought we had agreed on a price of 100 baht. I handed her the money and started to walk away, and she called me back, laughing. Turned out she had said 150 baht and I had misheard. We both laughed about it and she gave it to me for 120 as a compromise.
That's great. Misunderstandings happen, especially when there are accents or background noise. The important thing is to stay friendly and work it out.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself. Shopping in a foreign language can lead to some funny moments.
For sure. Like the time I tried to buy soap in Spanish, but accidentally asked for soup instead. The shopkeeper was so confused.
Language mix-ups are the best. Okay, so let's wrap up with some final tips for shopping and buying souvenirs.
First tip: do your research before you go. If you're traveling somewhere, look up what that place is known for. Is it textiles, pottery, jewelry, food products? Knowing this helps you make smart purchases.
Second tip, set a budget and stick to it. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and overspend.
Third tip: learn a few basic phrases in the local language if you're traveling. Even just hello, thank you, how much, and too expensive will go a long way.
Fourth tip, don't be afraid to negotiate, but do it respectfully and with a smile.
Fifth tip: keep your receipts, especially for expensive items. You might need them for returns, warranties, or customs when you're traveling home.
Sixth tip, if you're buying gifts for multiple people, make a list before you go so you don't forget anyone or buy too many things for one person and nothing for another.
Seventh tip: think about the story behind the item. The best souvenirs have a story attached to them, something you can share when people ask about it.
I love that. And my final tip, enjoy the experience. Shopping, especially in markets and small local shops, is about more than just buying things. It's about connecting with people, learning about culture, and creating memories.
Beautifully said. All right, I think we've covered everything from asking prices to bargaining to buying the perfect gift.
We have. And remember, the more you practice these shopping conversations, the more confident you'll become. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, ask questions, and engage with people.
Exactly. Shopping is a great way to practice your English because it's practical, necessary, and usually pretty low stakes. The worst that can happen is you don't buy something.
Right, so get out there, browse some shops, practice your bargaining skills, and find some treasures.
Thanks for joining us on the English Habit today. We hope this episode helps you feel more confident the next time you're shopping in English.
And remember, learning English is a journey, so make it a habit. Until next time, happy shopping!
See you next time.